During the House hearing, Lois Lerner pleading the fifth over and over and over again. Here's a look at some of those moments.
In February 2011, you emailed your colleagues in the IRS the following: Tea Party matter, very dangerous. This could be the vehicle to go to court on the issue of whether Citizens United overturning the ban on corporate spending applies to tax-exempt rules. Consul and Judy Kindell need to be on this one, please. Cincy should probably not, all in caps, have these cases. What did you mean by Cincy should not have these cases?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer the question.
Ms. Lerner, why would you say Tea Party cases were very dangerous?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question.
Ms. Lerner, in September 2010, you emailed your subordinates about initiating a, parentheses, C4 project and wrote, "We need to be cautious so that it isn't a per se political project." Why were you worried about this being perceived as a political project?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question.
Wow. Steve Hayes joins us now, and Chris Stirewalt joins us as well, Fox News digital politics editor and host of Power Play. Gentlemen, very high drama this morning, despite the fact that Lois Lerner said absolutely nothing. Steve, what do you make of it?
Well, I think, there are many reasons that she decided to take the fifth. We can all understand that. It certainly doesn't mean that she's guilty of anything, but if you look at the context and you look at those emails, there is a reason that she didn't want it to be perceived as a political investigation, and that's because it was a political investigation. It's very clear from everything that we've learned since this story broke almost, 2 years ago. That this was a deliberate targeting of conservative and Tea Party groups by the IRS in a way that was totally inappropriate, and I think ended up having the effect of suppressing political speech. She should answer those questions. Yeah. Somebody should answer those questions.
Somebody should. It's just shocking to me, Chris, when you watch this play out, that this woman is paid by the American taxpayers. She is dealing with the agency that handles everybody's money coming in and out of the U.S. government, not directly her, but this is who she works for. She's a public servant. And now she's being asked by the public servants to answer a few questions about what was going on under her watch, and she has refused.
Well, now there's most of the time, you don't like to be the subject of a federal investigation. Certainly the groups that Ms. Lerner's former agency targeted could attest to that it's not good to be investigated by the federal government. But sometimes it's a very good thing. And in this case, it's a very good thing for Lois Lerner because there is theoretically an active investigation at the Department of Justice into possible criminal wrongdoing at the IRS. She is able to invoke this constitutional privilege in front of the committee and say nothing, and she can sit there. So in that way, for now at least, it would seem that she has been greatly assisted by Eric Holder's Justice Department by having this open but so far unfruitful investigation going.
Well, I'm glad you used the word theoretical because
theoretical
investigation is pretty much all we've seen so far. We know that most of these none, to my knowledge, of these groups have actually sat down with the Justice Department and said, yes, these are the papers I had to sign. I had to wait for 3 years. I was given scrutiny that groups on the other side of the political spectrum were not given in these cases. They have not had that opportunity. Steve, let me go back to you for a moment because I do want to revisit the drama that we saw play out between Elijah Cummings and Darrell Issa this morning. What was your take on that?
Well, look, I think it probably would have been wise to let Elijah Cummings have his say. I don't think anybody would have paid much attention to what he was going to say, even if he attacked the process and attacked Chairman Issa.
Let's take a listen here.
May I ask my question? May I state my statement?
You're all free to leave. We've adjourned, but the gentleman may ask his question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I have one procedural question, and it goes to trying to help you get the information by the way that you just asked.
What is your question?
Let me say what I have to say. I've listened to you for the last 15 or 20 minutes. Let me say what I have to say. Chairman, I have one procedural
Ms.
question.
Lerner, you're released. You may.
But first, I would like to use my time to make some brief points. For the past year, the central Republican accusation in this investigation.
We're adjourned. Close it down.
Political collusion directed by on behalf of the White House. Before our committee.
Yeah, you can't really hear him because Darrell Issa, you can see him signaling there. Cut the mics, cut the mics. Steve, this is a rather uncomfortable moment.
Yeah, look, I think it would have been wise to let Elijah Cummings say what he's going to say. We understand that Democrats on the panel are unhappy with the process and are likely to either criticize Darrell Issa or otherwise try to confuse what the public knows about this. You've seen other members of the committee and other Democrats in Congress try to suggest that this really wasn't that big a deal, that there may not have been targeting these conservative groups, despite the fact that you've had the president and others in the administration acknowledge that this was an overreach, that this shouldn't have happened. I think the big question is, going back to the issue of the investigation, you know, the president of the United States already said there was not even a smidgen of corruption. How could a serious investigation be taking place at the Justice Department when the president has already pronounced what's happened by it? I think theoretical is being generous to describe the investigation that's happening at the Justice Department.
I mean, it's an excellent point. And Chris, we remember, and we've looked back at the tape, the president was outraged, he said, by the suggestions that the IRS was using its political influence in any way. We know, though, that the president had spoken out about the influence of these 501c3 groups, as had Senator Baucus. So, you know, one of the big questions for Lois Lerner is, how much did you understand about the bigger picture and what was being called for in terms of the scrutiny of these groups? And did you then take it upon yourself, or were you instructed to carry that out at your level at your agency?
And one of the lead investigators on the case for the Justice Department is, in fact, a political donor to Barack Obama. So, yeah, the credibility of the administration is very thin on this subject, as is the credibility of Democrats to wave away, oh, this is nothing, 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 pay no attention. I think the point here, though, is that we have a strong indication now that as long as Lois Lerner doesn't feel pressure about criminal charges, she is going to be unlikely to come forward. Today was a piece of set theater where you get to see people playing their parts in the drama, but it gets us nowhere closer to the actual truth of the matter. That could only come, I think, now at this point, if you get a special prosecutor outside of the normal chain of command at the Justice Department to go in and probe this. When you have an enemy, when you have political enemies of the administration as the targets, you need somebody outside the administration to come in and do the work.
Well, you know what? For Lois Lerner, maybe her lawyer instructed her well, because she went in there again today. She got this behind her, and essentially what I heard Darrell Issa say is, we're done with her. That's what it sounded like this morning. So this may have been a good day for Lois Lerner. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We'll see you later today.
You bet. Thanks, Mo.